Hey everyone, it's a dose of Dr. Drew.
Hey there, how are you? And we thought we'd just jump on for a few minutes here.
It's this camera over here.
Excellent. I'm reading an article that says, in another blow to herd immunity, new study shows decline of antibodies after just weeks. That may or may not mean a damn thing. And it's once again that King's College of London that has been the source of more panic porn than anybody else. If history is any indicator, I'm going to guess this is not going to prove to be much, because that particular group that has brought us many, many different panics has never been right. So I'm assuming they're going to continue on their streak. The other reason we decided to jump on today is California's shutting down again. Curious to get your guys' thoughts on that. And let's get to it. I'm watching the chat here on the restream. Tom Segar says, shut down again, and will yet other people are out there protesting. Well, this is what I was interested in, is that the governor has shut us down, and I don't know if you're aware of this, in California, it's a complete shutdown again. Well, not a complete shutdown, but most indoor businesses. He didn't say retail, which was interesting, but is there data that suggests that the following places, ooh, the camera's flying all over the place.
You're a little crooked.
I should say so. All right.
Okay.
Does anybody know of any data that churches, fitness centers, barbershops, hair salons, nail places are the source of anything? I don't know if you guys are watching Alex Berenson these days, but it's getting he's getting comical. He's trying to push back on the panic, the Team Armageddon stuff around the data. Now, I do believe that something's got to be done. We got to make sure that people distance and wear masks and all that stuff. But there's really, again, no scientific reason we couldn't go about our business. Aren't most of you getting used to wearing masks and distancing, or am I wrong? Are you not seeing that there's pretty good compliance? Yeah, Hans Curie says, Florida seems fine to me. Yeah, they're in a panic about Florida, yet plenty of ICU beds, death rate going down. Could go up. But I just think we have to really watch the data here. There is so much being read into the so-called positivity rate that I'm very concerned about that. I'm not sure the positivity rate is telling us as much as some of the epidemiologists maybe think it is. Now, I'm in no position to pass judgment on that, but I think it's pretty crazy. He only shut down 30 counties, Ashley says. Is that true? Or did we have that before, and now he shut down the entire state? Oh, yeah, it's 30 counties. You're right. 30 counties will be required to close indoor operations for fitness centers, worship. Let's see what those 30 are. I'm going to guarantee you that 30 is where everybody's living. 30 counties in California. Okay, we'll see which ones those are. It's not that. Well, certainly Los Angeles County is in there. Orange County is in there. San Bernardino. San Bernardino had been stabilizing, actually. I don't know why they would suddenly go after San Bernardino. Let me see if I can find the 30. Can't quite. I don't see it. Maybe somebody can clue me in on that. Tennessee got hit with a bunch of cases. Yeah. Well, it's going up. I mean, the genie's trying to pop out of the bottle. It really is. And that's the concern, that if it does get out of the bottle, there's no putting it back. And I get that. I get that's a grave concern. But why not let the actual things that are known scientifically to work, as opposed to extreme measures that have never been studied? That's the thing that's really hard to understand. Greg says the death rate is still low in California compared to the tri-state area in the Northeast. Absolutely, per 100,000. We're way below most places. And it's hard to understand the extreme reactions when there are plenty of other things to be done. And what I don't understand is, what are they thinking in terms of their tax revenue and how the state's going to run? I just don't get it. And we're getting to the end of the unemployment benefits. We are seeing companies or businesses have been dying to get back to work, and they just came on in. and now they're being shut down again. So I'd be curious to know what you guys think. If you have any ideas or any thoughts, I'm sort of all ears here. So it's Santa Barbara, Solano, Sonoma, Stanislaus, Sutter, Tulare, Yolo, Yuba, Ventura. I'm guessing Los Angeles, Orange, and San Bernardino as well, and probably Ventura also. So there's a really interesting question. AJ says, how is it that people in New York City are doing the right thing by wearing masks and social distancing, which they really seem to be doing there? I think because, well, first of all, a lot of people left New York City, a lot. Secondly, they got scared. They got scared into proper behavior. And I don't know if we have enough respect for the virus to be as universally compliant as we should be. I don't know. Yeah, somebody's saying, Monica, I think you're right there. Monica Ricci tells us that she's not even sure if they understand that the businesses, Ricci is where they get their money from, is from businesses. I'm not sure if they understand that. Yeah, it almost does seem like a perfect Tom cigar, doesn't it? It's really weird. You would think they'd be desperate to try to save the economy as opposed to really having such a low threshold to crushing it. It really is something. Florida, let's look at what Florida's doing. As I said, the death rate was down and was quite stable in Florida, maybe even declining. So let me see if I can get you that data. I found the COVID-19.healthdata.org to be sort of uninterpretable right now. I think things are changing too fast, and they're about 10 days out from having updated their data, so I am not looking at them right now. I'm looking at COVID Tracking Project. And yes, death rate is up, but stabilized in Florida. Hospitalizations are up, but that's, it's sort of climbing, and so is the new case rate. But in a state of, 30 million, you only have like 12,000 cases. That's still, and 80 cases, death rate is for real. It's not nothing. It's a hard thing to assess, right? How do we assess these numbers? How do we understand them in a state as big as Florida? It's definitely going up. And at what point is it intolerable? Too late? When is the genie out of the bottle? Or when do we take measures, systematic, stable, steady, daily measures that we're all taking? I'm not sure. Not sure I know. Okay, what do I make the idea that is airborne versus droplet? Airborne and droplet are the same thing. There is no difference. And the virus travels on droplets. And so if you block the droplets, you drop the transmission of the virus, which essentially takes a ride on the droplets. There was a doctor on the Prager Institute was saying we do not need to wear masks. Christopher, I think he would be. If you distance, you wouldn't need to wear a mask. The wearing of a mask goes all the way back to the 1918 flu, when they showed clearly that the caretakers, the nurses, were not getting the flu if they wore a mask. So, and we have the MIT study, and we have plenty of visuals that really make sense. And we have the fact, why do doctors wear masks in the ICU? Why do we just not wear a mask in the ICU then? I mean, come on, take it to its natural conclusion. How is Georgia doing? I'll look in just a second. Are the beaches open in California? I believe so. Yes, masks stop the droplets. Not the virus. The virus could get through. It's so tiny, but the virus doesn't get out into the world it travels on droplets. That's how it travels. Do they float in the air for very long? It's not like measles where it can float for like 2 hours. With this, it appears that it has to be a direct transmission. Like proximity and duration of that proximity is how we determine the infectivity rate. So it clearly is something that you need to be right by the person to get it. But I mean, you can be up to 6 feet. I don't know. I've seen the American Academy of Pediatrics has been very strongly in favor of opening schools, and then all of a sudden they backed off that. And I understand it's each little community is going to have to decide for themselves what the quote safe measures are to opening schools. But children don't get this virus and don't transmit this virus. Teachers do. Teachers can get it, and there have to be some measures to protect the teachers. But in the meantime, we are going to allow the development of children to languish, and we do not know the long-term effect of this. And the American Academy of Pediatrics was tilting at the idea that it will be profound. So no real risk and profound consequences. Why would you choose the profound consequences that they're essentially guaranteeing over nominal or no risk? Really hard to understand. But again, I'd love to hear more from the American Academy of Pediatrics. I will go with them. And I'm not saying it should be done willy-nilly. It should be done safely. Much like everything else should be done. Everything else should be done safely. Colin, what did Miss Mindy's show say? I'm not sure what she said. Underrated interventions. All right, Texas Doctors has 100% success rate with steroids. Here's the problem with these anecdotal reports. You have to remember, less than 1% overall gets in serious trouble with this disease. So if you see 1,000 patients, you may only see 2 that get into real trouble, right? That's the nature of the data. Now, if of those 1,000 patients, 500 of them are over 80, well, you're going to see a lot more trouble. But if you're treating mostly young people, you may see no trouble with no treatment. So whenever somebody anecdotally reports, "Oh, I use nasal steroids and no one dies," of course, that could the data that's a not a good enough study to be conclusive. We did the report with Dr. Zelenko. His reports are now out on zinc and hydroxychloroquine. They do look good. And there's more coming in on that, and that will have to be reproduced, of course. Largest high school for 4,000 students. How do we do it safely? I'd have to. Look, it's wearing masks, it's distancing, it's maybe doing some of it from home. Thoughts on Dr. Fauci being sidelined? I watched a press conference today where Kayleigh McEnany, who's somebody I used to actually work with, said in no uncertain terms, Fauci's at full throttle and he's not being sidelined, and there's full respect for Dr. Fauci. So why the fake news has said no, I don't know. It's all very confusing to me. If you guys can straighten me out, I am all ears. It's one of the reasons I came on the mic today. It's because everything is very confusing. Well, you're laughing, Susan. Don't you agree?
I agree.
Agreed.
That was a nervous tick.
Yeah. Terry says she's been on hydroxychloroquine for over 20 years. So far, so good. That's what hydroxychloroquine is. I've prescribed it for decades, and to many people. You have to see an ophthalmologist every year, but that's it. That's the only thing you have to do. So. Sweden.
Can we talk about Red Hawk?
Sure, I've been using this stuff. Yeah, I've been using the UV wands to great effect. And where's the thermometer?
Let me turn the music off.
Yeah, and I'll use the thermometer right now and check myself.
We have a new banner. It's really cool. Check this out.
Oh, look at that. Oh, that's the UV light I was telling you can put in a room and we'll sterilize a room overnight. We need to be using the UV light, guys. It looks like a good way to help sterilize any environments we're touching. So there's that. You can get it at 866 Red Hawk, for Red Hawk. Can immunity be suppressed, protect themselves? You know, I don't know if you guys saw it today. Dr. Oz show was the first 20 minutes was very, very good on vaccine therapies and sort of where the epidemic is going. I thought it was one of the best reviews I've seen in a long time. And there was a very fine vaccine researcher on there who was concerned that that the phase 3 trials are going to take longer to be deemed safe than we might otherwise think. He also was saying he's done some so-called challenge trials where you take the vaccine and then you expose yourself to the virus. We don't normally do that. And he was saying that would take up to a year to do as well, which I thought that was something that could shorten the duration of the studying. I myself will happily take the vaccine immediately, and I would do a challenge. I would do a challenge if it's one of the vaccines I have faith in. I have signed up to be a human subject in phase 3 clinical trials. Thus far, they have not gotten back to me, but I cannot wait to get one of those vaccines. So it was also interesting to hear from the vaccine researcher how many vaccines he thought were going to be really quite good. I've been interested in the RNA vaccines. He is interested in the old-fashioned style of just reacting to the proteins on the virus, and he felt that those might make a more exuberant response in the sense of protecting infection so you don't transmit to somebody else, not just prevent disease, right? There's two different things. You want to prevent the infection versus allow the infection but suppress it to the point that it doesn't cause disease. Those are two different endpoints.
That one doctor was saying it was going to be a lot longer.
That's
that
what I was
made me
saying.
nervous.
A year. He was saying a year rather than 4 to 6 months.
But you don't think that?
My wife is at work. She wears a mask in retail. Is it safe to her to be there? She's pregnant and she's pretty healthy. Pregnant women get more corona, but they do better with it.
Because of the estrogen.
And we don't really know why.
My obstetrician said that.
It could be. It could be. That's one of the theories.
We were thinking testosterone, but I think
I was thinking progesterone.
Maybe it's progesterone.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But the masks do work. Obviously, she has to wash her hands and be very, very cautious and keep distance from people. That's the important thing. Lisa says, that's where I'm completely confused. Okay, let's see. Every hour, you hear different things. We're being safe, staying home 95% of our lives. We enjoy that. What are we to believe? Here's the one thing that I'm really kind of been lately bugged by, which is, now here we are, it's like boiling the frog. We are how many months into this thing now? We started like in February, March, April, May. We're like 5-6 months into this thing. Let's say 6 months for the sake of argument. If you are 80 years old and the choice is get coronavirus and maybe die, or we steal 6 months of your life, which is about 1/8 maximum of what you've got left, I'll take the coronavirus. At my age, I feel like they're stealing about a 20th.
I said that first.
But they're taking about a 20th of my life away. That's a gigantic cost. That is a gigantic cost. And they seem to be doing it without any concern for us, the people who are giving our lives over to this quarantine. It's changed everything in my life, and I would like my life back because I don't have that many 6-month intervals left. I would rather risk getting coronavirus than cashing out on 6 or 12 months of my life. It just doesn't make sense.
But then you're being selfish,
Orthodox,
Drew.
why are you disappointed? What was the disappointed thing I said? Please enlighten me. I'm ready to be enlightened.
He doesn't like Dr. Oz, I think, probably.
Oh, well, Oz did a good show today. He did a very good show today. Scared for your kids, Stephanie. Of course, it's a scary thing, but kids do very well. They don't get it. And it's not a 0% thing. But I mean, if every time a child gets advanced disease, you see it on TV and it's 1 out of 75 million, and we make a big deal out of that, we're never getting out of this. We're never getting out of it. We have to learn judgment in terms of living with this thing.
Oh, I know what Orthodox 11 was against.
What was that?
He said you work for Bill Gates now.
Oh, because I can't wait to get a vaccine?
Yeah, I wish. God.
I work for Bill Gates.
I want to work for him.
There are not enough.
He probably pays better than I pay.
There are not enough vaccines available for me and my family. Every vaccine, as soon as it's available, we take it. I know the biology. I studied the biology my entire life. And guess what? We're not going to get cancer because we take the vaccine.
I mean, not everybody has to get it.
They can do what they want. Do what you want.
You don't have to get the vaccination.
Do not argue with me about the science and the science of how these things work, how our immune system works.
Just because you're for it doesn't mean you're telling people they have to do it.
I'm not telling anybody to do anything. I'm ready to sign up for a phase 3 trial.
That's like addiction. You're not telling people not to go out and have a good time. Because you're around.
Nor even to get addicted. I'm here when if they are addicted, that's on them. That's up to them. But if they need help, they like help, then I can help. Bubonic plague is Mark. Here's how the press screws everything up. Bubonic plague is in Southern California. The last bubonic plague outbreak was in Los Angeles. They're making a huge deal out of a small little outbreak in China. It's here. And if we don't do something about our rat, it will get into the human population. Simple. That will happen.
Would that be worse than coronavirus?
Yes, that could be worse than coronavirus.
Maybe. We're not going to believe it, though.
Monique, that's one of there's many dozens of vaccines being developed. The predominant vaccine type are the old-fashioned protein vaccines. The RNA vaccines that actually go in and turn on the immune system against the virus, I think there are 2 of those. Dr. Bark on the show from Orange County. Who is that? How's Georgia looking? Okay, let me look at Georgia. Give me a second here. Yeah, it's all very confusing. I wish I could make better sense of where we are at, but as it is, I just think slow and steady is the right way to go. Maybe that's what I'm saying, that wear your masks, keep your distance, keep going about your life, but minimize your movement if you can. And let's just keep going, because this thing is going to be with us until we have a vaccine. And if we keep locking down, Georgia's interesting. The new cases have gone from 1,000 to 3,000 on a pretty steady slope, not an increasing slope. Hospitalizations, though, is kind of parabolic. Death rates are generally down, though they have turned around and are starting to go up now. 25 new deaths on the 13th. What is the date today?
13th.
Day the 13th, yeah. So it's just turning around there over the last couple of days. Generally we're heading down towards, you were down at, let's see if I can get the low, 27, and now you're going back to 35. There are very few deaths in reality. It's a lot if it's you, of course. All right, let me see what else you guys are thinking. With mask, isn't still 40% chance of getting it? Kelly, it depends how you put the data together. If you wore a mask and you lived with somebody think about it. People work in an ICU every day and they don't get it because they wear masks, they wear eye shields, and they wash their hands. That's how doctors and nurses prevent themselves from getting it. So, interesting. So if you lived in a room with somebody who had it and you wore a mask and they were in close proximity to you and they wore a mask, you'd still get it over a period of time. You would get it. It's not absolutely preventative. It just really substantially reduces the risk when you're coming in contact with people transiently, particularly at a distance. Okay, let me see. Why do some people get it and some don't? We don't know the answer to that yet. That's a really interesting question. I'm going to scroll back up here. See, you guys, the incidence of, let me give you the incidence of deaths up. Hang on a second. There's a JAM article. See if any of the non-COVID related deaths. Well, there's two things changing rapidly. One is that hospitals are filling up with non-COVID related illnesses because people have been delaying getting treatment. And so there's literally an epidemic now of people with advanced medical conditions that should never have gotten into this state because they didn't get treatment. Advanced medical conditions, suicide and depression, overdoses up 20%. We have major health problems on our hand here because of what we're doing for the COVID. So this always has to be weighed out. The risk reward has to be weighed. That's why navigating between is always the right way to go. Going way this way and way that way, it's a big mistake. It's a big mistake. The Oxford vaccine went into production in India. There's 4 different vaccines that I'm aware of in production now because they're having to ramp up to hundreds of millions of doses. So they're already making them. Who is Dr. Buttar? Belinda? I don't know who Dr. Buttar is. What is Dr. Buttar's point? What is Chagas disease? Jen, Chagas disease is a Tsetse Fly Syndrome. Well, it used to be thought it was transmitted that way. It used to be called the sleeping disease. That's another one. That and quicksand in the 70s were very popular. How can they guarantee the vaccine will work? Because they will have studied it on thousands of people and looked at their antibody response. And there's even some vaccines that will be challenged with the virus. And if people don't get the virus, guess what? It's working. Colin, stay distance, wear a mask. Keep your distance, wash your hands, wear the mask. Spinal cord injury, Thomas. The real problem there is obviously ventilation, but it doesn't put you in any added really special risk of getting and being contracted with or having the complications, which are the so-called cytokine activation storm or cytokine activation. Oh yeah, there's Andrew. I didn't get your Twitter, but I got your email on that. India's moving forward with it. That's interesting. Folding at home efforts. I don't know what that is. I'm trying to keep up with your guys' questions here. George talked to 2 of my doctors who feel the hydroxychloroquine data is meh. George, I bet there are a lot of physicians that feel that way. That's the nature of medicine, is we continually discuss, each of us have our own threshold before we sort of feel comfortable with the data. So I'm not surprised that some need to see more data before they're convinced. That does not surprise me at all. It has to be reproduced. Any thoughts on T-cell immunity, the Miss Minnie show? I think that's the future. And I have I didn't finish my thought on that headline, the panic porn, that immunoglobulins are falling. Herd immunity is impossible. Turns out T-cell responsiveness may be more important than immunoglobulin measurements. And we now have ways of really isolating and describing exactly what our T-cell responsiveness is. So I think that could be the future, and that's going to tell us what's really going on here, I suspect. Phenibos 57, neurological symptoms are very common from all viruses, but pandemics leave in their wake, almost always, if it's a viral pandemic, neurasthenia, psychoses, depression, neuropathies, Guillain-Barré type syndromes, all kinds of stuff like that. Okay, I'm going to go back up the stream here and see if I can find. I couldn't keep up with you guys for a minute there. Okay, I keep hearing about cases of people having major issues with COVID. Sure, of course, there are going to be people that have major issues with it. Potty mouth Barbie. Yeah, it can happen. You can have complications, and it can go bad. That's the nature of this illness. And older people are more likely to have those complications. Thank you, Tammy. I got my hair cut. But I may not be able to get it cut again because they closed everything down.
Oh, no, not me again.
Good month to get the flu shot. I would say September, October, because we don't want the flu and the COVID situation on top of each other. Melinda, I still haven't seen Dr. Buttar's point. I don't know what the point is. I'm going to go down, see if I can. Dr. Rashid Buttar on YouTube debunks value of mask for everyone. Okay. Well, Melinda,
I don't believe that.
He's entitled to that opinion. I hope he publishes his data. I will happily read it in a peer-reviewed journal. What his opinion is doesn't mean shit, frankly. What matters is what is the published data, and there's good data now on the masks. Read it for yourself. Yes, Betsy, the post-ICU illnesses are always bad. If you spend a long time in an ICU or on a ventilator, just that itself from any illness leaves you with all kinds of problems. Will buying toilet paper help? No, it will not. Thoughts on catching it twice, Josh? Interesting question. We've been thinking that nobody was getting it twice. They were just getting a recurrence. Now this data on the immunoglobulins falling raises the question about the possibility of getting it in a relatively close sequence. Jury's out. We'll find out more on that. Again, I think the T-cell studies have to come in first. Brett Weinstein has a thing or two to say about legitimacy of peer review. Yeah, Monique. Journal in psychological journals is what he's talking about. In medical journals, it's a little bit better. It's quite a bit better, actually. But there's a reproduction crisis in psychology, not in medicine.
Somebody wants to know about the Sand Mini. Where to buy it?
Needle destruction device.
NoMoreSharps.com.
Yes.
I'll put a little banner up for that.
I can't quite follow that. Beta adrenergic hyperdynamic circulatory state. Are you talking about what we also now call cytokine storm, the beta adrenergic hyperdynamic circulatory state? It's also called shock or sepsis. These have many names over the years, and it's a complex biological sort of cascading system that we don't understand very well. Yes, Brett Weinstein is an evolutionary biologist. He's not a physician, Monique. I will always come down on the side of Dr. Fauci. He has been a guiding light for me my entire career, and I will not suddenly abandon him for some reason. I do know he is very conservative, and I do know he worries about things to make sure that things get through with minimum harm. I don't think he's overrated, Edgardo. He's been around a long, long time in a lot of different situations you're not aware of that I have been following with. So, like, for instance, if the American Academy of Pediatrics and Fauci disagree on bringing kids back to school, I will go with Fauci.
Somebody wants to know how many times you can wear your mask before you change it.
People argue about that. I guess technically it should be changed every day.
Wash them.
Wash them every day. That's
or throw them away and get a new one.
Yes, Fenibas. Americans do not like being told what to do. That is true, and I don't like it either. But let's all get on board with this as an opportunity we're going to squander if we don't. And you've seen what our government's capable of if things get out of hand.
I feel bad for my friends who work in hair and nails. It's really sad for them. And bars,
Monique, this distributed information suppression complex. I'm sure I'm interested in what he's got to say. I do follow Brett Weinstein. I thought his interview on Rogan was very good. So, why do cases keep going up in states with mandatory mask requirements? A, because people aren't wearing masks, and B, I don't know if you've been in a bar. In the bar is there are two places where I see transmission: bars, demonstrations. That's where, to me, those seems to be the most efficient areas of transmission. And once it starts spreading, then it gets easier to catch walking by somebody in the street who has the mask below their nose. I can't tell you how much inappropriate or improper mask wearing I've seen. That gets rather disturbing as well. See my comment about Tdap shot. I couldn't really follow it, Christine, so I had trouble reading it with the way that my thread goes by very, very quickly. Fauci's on and off. He flip-flops. Robin, he changes his opinion. Scientists change their opinion. They don't flip-flop. They change their opinion. Now, the problem with that is that people need real consistency when it comes to public health messages. If we overstate, you won't listen to us. If we exaggerate, you don't want to hear it. If we're hypocritical, forget it. And unfortunately, I think most public health messages have been extremely inconsistent. And I think that's where we're losing people. I really do. Do you guys agree with me? Or is it not the case that public health officials go, you cannot go into a restaurant and we don't want you to have more than 5 people at your house? What about the demonstrations? There's 8,000 people outside the building that you're in. And they go, you have a First Amendment privilege. You have First Amendment privilege. It's like, no, if you want to say, if they had said, we want you to limit contact to 5 people in your backyard at barbecues, whatever. And there's an important thing going on called demonstrations. And we understand people may want to take that risk. We're not going to make a pass judgment if people want to take that risk.
So I'm going to take the risk and have a barbecue then.
Well, that's the point. At least that's a consistent message.
I'm thinking about it this week if we're closed down again. I have to have my friends over because they're all very sad.
I mean, there's a way. Let's put it. Maybe not consistency. I shouldn't say, but honest. Yeah, you guys are right. Honesty is the thing that's missing in the messaging right now. They need to be transparent and honest. That's what's missing. I was thinking it was inconsistent because they were saying you can gather here, but you can't gather here. And that's inconsistent, but they're being dishonest. They're being dishonest to you when they hide behind the First Amendment in certain areas and leave the First Amendment flapping in the breeze in other areas. Look, just say it's too important a subject for people not to go out and take that risk. Okay, be honest. That's fine. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that at all. But to say, hey, we insist the rest of you do one thing and and everything else is about the First Amendment, that's how you lose credibility.
If everybody's been in quarantine, you can have a barbecue.
Transparency and honesty, man. I've been talking about public health stuff for a long time, and I've always thought you have to be completely honest in your assessments, or they just don't want to hear it. Think about how they overstated cannabis risk. People still won't have an honest conversation about cannabis because they don't want to hear it because they're expecting overstatement and all the stuff that used to be part of the rhetoric around cannabis. Kimberly, rallies are okay, and sure they're okay. And the thing to say is, rather than hide behind the First Amendment, to go, hey, rallies are great. That's just okay. They're great. Distance, wear the mask, or else you're going to transmit this thing and be a part of the problem.
Yeah.
As opposed to when I talk to public health officials now, they just immediately go, well, everyone has a First Amendment privilege, and that First Amendment privilege, they sound like robots. But you need to get home and shelter in place.
Hide under your bed.
All right. Am I against kids going back to school? Ashley, I am not specifically against it at all. The American Academy of Pediatrics came down strongly in favor of it because they are fearful of the unintended consequences of them staying home, including mental health consequence and cognitive consequence, which are guaranteed. The point is there are guaranteed consequences that your government is overlooking. There are consequences to kids being scared to death. There are consequences to allowing overdose and mental health problems to run unchecked. There are consequences to people being pushed into poverty. There are consequences to, think of all the different things they've created. The people not getting their medical care and then all of a sudden rushing in and overwhelming the hospitals the way they're doing now. There's one thing after another. And so if it is a lower, nearly zero risk for children, but a high risk of them having cognitive and emotional consequences, let's take that zero risk and stop listening to the press. But again, as you'll see, it has to be done safely. It has to be done in such a way that protects the teachers. Of course. Just to say it be done willy-nilly, of course not. That would be silly. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, no singing in church. Well, no church now, Amy. No church. Which, by the way, what about that First Amendment right to practice your religion? What happened to that? Is that a First Amendment privilege that suddenly? Well, that one doesn't matter. So again, inconsistent, dishonest,
maybe you could just have a
messaging.
protest in front of the church, and everybody can sing and
Ooh, that's
pray
a good
outside.
Idea. Ooh, I like that.
I'm a problem solver.
Okay. Dustin, this is a long one. When it was the epicenter, look at China, New York, when the numbers are crazy. I don't think younger people is a viable. Not everyone's going to be young that is getting this now. That is true, Dustin. I agree with you. I agree that, of course, it eventually gets the older population as well. Illinois has churches back to capacity limits. Yeah, it's California that is 30 counties in California that have decided that your First Amendment privilege to practice your religion is completely null and void. Null and void. We can't do it with masks, can't do it with distancing. You cannot be trusted. I think that's something. I think that is really something. If immunity turns out to be shortened, how does that affect the effectiveness of the vaccine? Well, George, that's one of the issues that has to be studied, right? How long does it maintain its response? And you may have that at the end of the phase 2 trials, but again, you only need it to last a year, right? The vaccines are done every year. Flu vaccines are done every year. Lick, I'm not sure, how they would manage that, but some schools are.
Some manage what?
What is my co-host name? It's Susan Pinsky. Dr. Judy Bark, 2 days ago interviewed and said wearing masks don't work. Again, look at the data. I would like to see what he or she has published, what Jeffrey Burke is saying, what he publishes in that regard. Show me the data. Just show me the data, and I'll look at it. And does he have does he have other suggestions other than wearing masks? Or is it just we should all get sick with this?
Thank you, Christopher.
Do I think that memory T cells are enough to provide immunity after you get a symptomatic case? That is a question. Preliminary IgG results show that you lose quite a bit. Yeah, that's right. The acorn, that has to be studied. That is exactly what has to be studied. Does T cell immunity confer immunity? That's the question. And I don't think anybody has done that study yet. I believe you will see it soon, though. Okay. All right.
We're very happy today with you. We have a lot of people on this stream.
Well, I think everyone, I don't know about you and the rest of the country, but California, it feels very desperate now and confusing. Really confusing. And I made the mistake of
maybe
watching.
Unhappy people. I shouldn't say happy.
I made the mistake of watching the some news shows today, and I became extremely confused almost immediately. Let's see. You're asking about the budesonide. There it is. Nebulizer. Yes, don't make too much of that. That is an anecdotal report. It is not a study. It's an anecdotal report, and I'll say it again. If you treat 500 patients with COVID, if they're mostly young, no treatment will be adequate, and they will do fine. So adding an inhaled steroid going to look like it's 100% effective because guess what? Even if you have a mixed population, it's only 1% that are going to get into real trouble. So it can look like, unless you have thousands of patients, or unless you're dealing with the older and at-risk group, it can look like everything works because the average patient does well. It's not that it's not miserable. It is miserable. It's terrible. And you can get complications. But all you hear about, whoa, boy, Kimberly, that's long. All you hear about in the news are the complications. Okay, 1%.
Kimberly, we can't read that.
Lung damage, strokes. Also, are you talking about other causes of death? I think that's what you're talking about.
You can read faster than me.
I'm jumping around. Only 1% death. What's the big deal? Don't get it. The choice is ruin the economy to save 1%. If we reopen the economy, it will be destroyed anyway. The U.S. economy cannot survive everyone getting COVID. Yes, I agree. Everyone getting COVID is not a good idea. Letting the genie out of the bottle is not a good idea. I completely agree with that. As I've said from the beginning, follow Dr. Fauci, wear the mask, do your social distancing. That has scientific validity to it. Shutting down, no one's ever studied it. No one's ever studied quarantining healthy people. What do you think quarantine was? Quarantine is when they came in and they took sick people and they quarantined them. Never in history have we quarantined healthy people. And as you heard me say it before, I'll say it again now to review. The idea of quarantining healthy people was an idea that was developed in 2006 by a high school student in New Mexico, in Albuquerque. And her father built a computer model off of her science study, made her the second author, he the lead author, in a study that got adopted by the Bush administration as a policy for a potential pandemic of influenza. Because, and they were talking really primarily about closing schools. They really weren't talking about quarantining everything, even in those models. So it is a model that had never been used before, never been studied, and was invented by a high school student for influenza, which is transmitted by children, not COVID, not transmitted by children. So study your history, everybody. That's just the way, that's just the fact. Now, masks have been studied since the 1918 flu, and they work. What do you think doctors and nurses wear in the ICU to prevent the transmission? Masks. So come on. Now, we have a different level of PPE in an ICU, but it's the same basic philosophy.
Taylor Williamson, the comedian, just texted me. He said, you're dodging the important questions with a funny face.
What is his important question?
I think he was joking.
Taylor, what is the important question? Maybe you'd like to come on here. You want to zoom him in?
Not right now.
Not right now. Sorry, Taylor.
I mean, we could.
Your friend Susan said no to that.
I could zoom him in, I guess. I don't know. I might have to shut everything down to do that.
Yes, the narrative is, Eric, if you don't quarantine, you hate your grandparents. I hope people are getting over that now. There was a whole town in the UK that quarantined themselves hundreds of years ago. Yes, because they were all sick. They were all ill. Ill people quarantined, not healthy people. Now we're quarantining healthy people. That's never been done before.
It's insane. I feel like I live in communist Cuba.
Interesting.
That's how it was when we went to Cuba. They made everybody go to their houses, and they wouldn't let them out of the house while the Americans showed up.
Michelle, let me tell you, Michelle wants something new about the virus. The virus has changed, and it's changed in such a way that it could have greater efficiency of transmission. That ability to spread more easily has not been proven. So that's new on the virus. That's new.
Should I not have said that?
Would I feel better? I don't know quite know. I've offered to work in a hospital, JH. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, somebody wants to know about UV lighting.
UV is very effective. UV
I'm going to show them our goodies.
Okay, tell them again. That's stuff I carry around with me to UV everything I touch.
And this is the big one that you can sanitize an entire room with.
Ultimately, Melissa, we are quarantining everybody, not asymptomatic or symptomatic. We are quarantining everybody when we shut things down.
Shameless plug.
Okay, and it's 8664 Red Hawk.
We don't make any money off these guys. We're just helping them out.
Mad cow, it does not pass through farts. And the other thing to think about the virus that we now know is we wondered if there was much seasonal variation to it, whether it would go away in the summer, and it did not. Right? It's coming roaring back here. So whatever is happening does not appear to be seasonal. That's new, right? We also thought maybe it would just go away by itself, that some viruses do that. They just go away. Well, pretty clearly that's not happening right now. This thing is starting to really come on in certain areas. So
Nate wants to know, if you were the governor of California, what would your policy about schools and commerce be?
I would have, I would leave it to the county health officials for one thing. And I would ask them all to report to me. I think local management is always superior to anything from some centralized planning. I mean, look at every attempt that humans have done with that. I would have them report to me and see what's going on in all the different health sectors in the counties. And I would want to report from the mental health services as well as from the physical services. I'd want to know about other medical conditions being treated and how that was going. Were people coming in and getting proper care? Had so much care been diverted and now we were accumulating a population of people that were going to be really sick? And I would weigh out how much to close down based on those other countervailing forces, medical illnesses that kill, as compared to this one. We're pretending as though there's only one. The others are still alive and well and killing people, and people are not getting proper care from them, and the mental health side is accumulating rapidly, and getting out of control. I woke up this morning to a text from somebody in Washington who was documenting some of that data.
But what about schools?
In schools, I would say, I would leave it up to the local school district, but I would recommend following the American Academy of Pediatrics. I would contact the American Academy of Pediatrics and ask for their recommendations and what their criteria are and how they would suggest we do it safely. And I would firmly suggest that people did that. That would be it. Very simple. I would not all of a sudden, I would not just be looking at COVID. I would never be shutting things down. I would always be finding ways to shape behavior to get us to navigate in such a way that we keep this thing at a low boil and live alongside of it, which is what we're going to have to do for the time being.
Mm-hmm. So Taylor Williamson says, I know it's a serious day, just being silly. I went hiking with my Carano, and he has a bunch of turtle food and fed turtles.
I've seen him. I'm sure that will show up on his Instagram thread. Taylor Williamson.
So we're going to have them both on. I've decided.
And Kimberly, cognitive dissonance. Yes, my dear. Cognitive dissonance is Dunning-Kruger and cognitive dissonance rule the world. What are you referring to? Kimberly Cornelison. Where is the cognitive dissonance?
Cornelson.
Yes, shaping behavior is difficult. I agree. And I wouldn't mind putting some laws in place to really, I don't know what we would do exactly. I would try to find ways to motivate the proper behavior.
You seem much healthier today, Drew. You're not coughing and sneezing. And
how about that?
Yeah.
But I do have to go do Fox 11 right away. So let me go do that.
Yes, we do.
Thank you for that.
What's your topic tonight, I wonder?
We're talking about the lockdown, amongst other things.
Alex Michelson. Alex is very excited about his interview with Adam Carolla last week. So go to his Facebook or his Twitter and watch the clips and tell him how wonderful that was. Sorry. I like Alex. He's so cute.
They're asking us to stream on Twitch. Don't we stream on Twitch?
We do. Is it not on there today?
Apparently not.
Oh, it may be off. I don't know. Next time. It's usually on
Kimberly,
Twitch.
Wait. Tell me what I'm making excuses about. Making excuses about... Please tell me, because I'd love to address... if I have any cognitive dissonance, I want to address it. How come you don't post it on your page? Somebody's asking. Erica?
Post what?
I don't know.
What, the Fox report?
Maybe it's that.
If you're not in the LA area, you can go to foxla.com/live.
Stephen, I did not speak to Bean about his COVID experience. I did not.
We should.
Florida death rate was up a little bit, if I remember right. Let me see. I hate the term social distancing. We need to use physical distance. I agree with you. I agree with that.
Right.
Good point. That is Christopher Lundgren. Because people need social contact. And the lack of social contact is one of the sources of our mental health problems. We should use physical distancing. Great point. California death rate is up. It is indeed.
It's not Fox News, Pollyanna. It's Fox 11.
It's a local. Think The Simpsons and the Family Guy.
It's like
Simpsons,
ABC or
Guy.
NBC News.
Yeah.
It's not Fox News. I just...
Yeah, no, it's not Fox News.
It's not Fox News, it's foxla.com. So it's sort of like CBS News or NBC News. What a cute dog, Taylor. You got a dog.
Hang on, guys. I was waiting for the cognitive dissonance conversation, and now she just disappeared on me.
He sent me a picture of his dog watching you and Alex on his computer. So he's out there. He's a new fan. I guess he got a new dog.
Oh.
And he was feeding turtles.
With my Corano.
While you're in between, I just wanted to throw that out.
When can I return to work in assisted living after positive COVID test? It depends what the policy is. That facility, probably 2 weeks. Probably, I'm guessing. But they may want you to test negative before they take you in.
How was it having COVID?
It's so different for different people. I mean, it's almost a silly, it's almost not worth us looking at any given case, right? Because some people have no symptoms.
Right.
Some people have the flu. Some people are devastated and lose their legs. Some people have strokes. Some people have Guillain-Barré. Some people have Kawasaki syndrome. Some people have massive lung attack and end up in a ventilator, and die. So it's all over the place.
I went to get my hair done this week, thank God. Or I'd still look like the cat lady. So
she means Carol Baskin. When she says the cat lady, I can't figure what she's talking about. She means Carol Baskin.
And she said, I asked her how many people she met that had it, and she said 2 people so far, and it was both like 3 days with a little fever and didn't feel well, and then they were fine. So, it's weird.
That would not be me.
How do you don't put it into the universe, honey?
It would not be.
You're probably an asymptomatic carrier.
Oh, that would not be good either, because I would have infected other people, and I don't want that.
No, you're not. I haven't met anybody who's had it. But she didn't even know them, like, personally. She knew of people, and that was their symptoms. So I just want to get it and get over it with.
All right. I got to wrap everything up, you guys. Thank you for being here. We just thought we'd come in and share a little confusion with you. I know I didn't help, and somebody else was saying I need to be more positive. I agree. I need to find a way to help everyone feel a little better. I don't know why I've not been feeling that.
Well, I know Catherine Barger's not really happy about shutting down. She thinks psychologically it's really not a good thing for people. And these small businesses are just picking up the pieces, and now they're shut down again, and it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
I think each city, like you said, should take control of their own destiny. I really think. But that's my opinion.
Hey, Zoe, I went out and ran with a mask on, really just to show respect to anybody I was running by. I would take it off when there was nobody around, but I put it back on if there was anybody near me. You guys live. Mahalo. Thank you. We'll be back tomorrow. Well, Jennifer, ask your question now before I wrap it up. Tomorrow we'll have a dose. It was with, who was on tomorrow?
The doctor from Hazleton.
Oh, yeah. We're going to talk about the overdoses and the problems with addiction now in the age of COVID and lockdown. The Betty Ford, medical director, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is coming in to talk to us about the data. And
wait,
it's a mess.
Isn't it
it's
Hazleton?
A mess.
It's Hazleton.
Hazleton Betty Ford, it's called.
Oh, it is? Okay.
I got to come up with a way to calm us all down. I was hoping you guys would calm me down today, actually. I was hoping you would.
We're going to have links to virtual meetings.
Share my confusion. And the confusion, again, the one thing I solved today is that we need honesty from our government in terms of public health messages. And I promise you I will try to be as transparent, as honest as possible. And if that helps us sort of align and see things for what they are. But I may be some days confused like I am today. And today it's sort of like there's a little bit of a fog of war feeling about it. Like I don't know where we're going with stuff, and I don't know why we're shutting down. It just feels depressing. It just feels depressing. And I really don't think we should have to do that. I think we would follow other measures, and we will get it under control. I mean, closing the bars, that makes some sense to me. Closing down the beaches on the 4th of July, that made sense to me. But now rolling back to closing a bunch of businesses that were just struggling to survive and forcing people out of their businesses makes no. I mean, where does this government think it gets its money from? It gets it from tax revenue, from the people that have businesses and jobs. Yeah, deflated, Tom. That's the way I feel too, Tom Cigar. Okay, at the end of the show, end the show on something positive.
Taylor Williamson has a new dog.
We should be grateful. It's hard to feel gratitude. Gratitude is something we need to be feeling. And it's hard to feel gratitude when we're being buffeted about by forces that are outside of our control. And I feel like we need more control in our lives, and exactly how we're going to find that, I guess, is not exactly clear at the moment. But the best I can do presently is just say honesty and transparency is what we're going to go forward with. And somewhere in there, we've got to find a way to assert ourselves in a way that lets us feel like we have some say in the way things are going. Everybody agree with that? Does that sound right? Does everybody else feel like they have no say in how this is all playing out? And that you should have a... Now, you shouldn't be able to do as you please if it's going to hurt other people. But, if you don't want to wear a mask and then aren't let into some businesses, that's on you, right? But we should have some sort of freedom and choice here. And then what I would work on is convincing you all to wear the mask and to do the distance and all those things. I think that would be, let you go to church, let you congregate at church, let you have your First Amendment privilege in all aspects of that First Amendment privilege. So we'll see.
Just put all the chairs outside and then carry a banner and protest and sing and listen to the preacher.
I kind of feel like we need to get back to work. That's kind of what it feels like.
We could do like an outdoor in the street church service.
Yeah, anything like that. Are false negatives typical?
First Amendment rights.
There are a lot of... The testing, I can deal with that a little bit tomorrow, but the testing is kind of nefarious. There are false negatives and false positives. All right, so let's have a good week. Tomorrow, we're talking about Betty Ford. Wednesday, Tyrus. Thursday, maybe Alex Berenson back.
No, the guy with the book that you
Brandon
wanted.
Stogsdale, who's made his way out of prison and a murder charge into now becoming a very capable
I don't have any
mental health
banners
professional.
put together because Caleb is working on our Patreon. It's happening, everybody. You're going to get what you wanted. So that'll be fun. I don't know what he's doing. He just took the whole week off. So.
Brady, I am a fan of emotionally focused therapy generally. It's time consuming and expensive, but it's very effective.
You can get more of Dr. Drew tonight on foxla.com/live.
All right.
7 p.m.
I'm going to go do that. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you tomorrow.